my channel. I know it's been a long time since I posted a video. It's been a little over a year, but if you can't tell by the title, it's been an exciting year. I gave birth to twins, 2 babies, on March 23rd, Jace Cairo and Madison Carter. They are beautiful and perfect. I'm gonna do a whole pregnancy journey video with Chris on our channel, so this video is strictly just gonna be about the birth story. And I just want to start off before they even got here. They were due May 16th, so they came about 2 months ahead of time, like a month and a half, because they were going to induce me at 38 weeks anyway. So they came on March 23rd. I had a doctor's appointment with my OB on March 16th. At that appointment, they learned that the babies weren't growing at the rate they were supposed to be growing from my previous appointment. So they just put me on, basically put me on watch. They wanted me to come to an appointment every week. So I had an appointment on March 16th. My next appointment was supposed to be March 24th. The twins came on March 23rd, so I never made it to that appointment. I was still working my whole pregnancy. My maternity leave date was set for March 21st, but I was going to continue to work after that up until I felt like I just couldn't work anymore. So I went to work on March 21st, and it was a normal work day. Nothing went wrong. I sat down most of the day. I worked my 10 hours, but I was really tired that day. So I remember I wanted to come home and take a nap, and I was gonna get up and eat dinner. Got home, laid down, took a 3-hour nap, got up around like 8:30, and I felt a gush of water. It wasn't like a major thing. It was kind of like I was getting up and it was kind of like a little gush. So I went to the bathroom, and another big gush came out. So after I used the bathroom, I told Chris, I was like, hey, I think my water broke. And she immediately was like, well, do we need to go to the hospital? Do we need to call somebody? What do we need to do? So I text my best friend who works with, she works in labor and delivery, and she knows her midwifery and dual stuff. So I kind of text her, I did text her and told her what was going on. She kind of walked me through some steps to make sure that it was my water that broke. About an hour later, we decided to call the on-call doctor. I gave them everything that happened and how long it had been. They were like, come in, we'll test it to see if it is your water breaking or if you just need to put on bed rest. So we live in Raleigh. We drove to the hospital where we're giving birth in Chapel Hill, which is it's usually about a 45-minute drive, but since everybody was staying at home, the highway was clear, so it took us 30 minutes to get there. It is 10:47. We're heading to the hospital just so they can check. They only want to check. Can't really see Chris. It's raining. It was a nice day, but it's kind of cold now, which is crazy. Got into the hospital around like 11:30. They took me to triage. Even when we went into the hospital, when the triage still kind of wasn't real, that it was a possibility the babies could be here soon. But we went into triage. They tested my fluids. It was amniotic fluid. All right, water is broken. Hospital, but water's broke. I'm fine, babies are fine, heartbeats are fine, they're hanging out, they're moving. But yeah, that's where we are right now. It's almost midnight. It's midnight. So 14. You look beautiful. Thanks, Jace, who was baby A, his sac had broke, so he was sitting the lowest. So his sac broke. They told me it was a chance that he could get an infection, so they were just going to keep me in the hospital. They admitted me to the hospital that night. They wanted to keep me pregnant until I believe it was 34 weeks. They wanted to keep me there, so I would have been there for 2 weeks. The 21st, I was exactly 32 weeks. So I'd have been in the hospital for 2 weeks. I've never had to stay in the hospital before. I've never had major surgery or anything like that. So being in the hospital or being admitted to the hospital and they wanted to keep me for that long was kind of weird. But I was like, okay, it's the best thing. They gave me a steroid shot that night to develop the baby's lungs. That was pretty much it for that day. I went up to the room, Chris spent the night, went to sleep, everything was fine. On the 22nd, Chris came home because, if you guys don't know, we have 2 dogs. But she came home, walked the dogs, got some snacks, came back up to the hospital. They had kept me on monitors, so I was on an IV for fluids, and they kept me on a heart rate monitor like once a day or whatever, maybe a couple times a day, I can't really remember, but just to check the baby's heart rates. Heart rates always look good. So Monday morning they invoked their pandemic restrictions for the hospital. So Chris couldn't be there until I went into active labor, so I was in the hospital pretty much alone besides like the nursing staff that worked there. But Monday morning they took me down for an ultrasound just to see, you know, where the babies were. They had my chart already that the babies weren't growing. So they just wanted to check on the babies, make sure they were doing okay. That ultrasound lasted about 45 minutes and the ultrasound tech noticed that Jace wasn't using his lungs. Madison she had already been practicing with her lungs, but Jace just wasn't taking breaths or trying to attempt to take breaths at all. Still had a heart rate, everything was fine. He was just a little stressed out, as they called it. So after that ultrasound was around like 2 p.m. Around 8, my doctor came into my room and did another ultrasound just to see if anything had changed. That ultrasound lasted another 30-45 minutes. About 20 minutes in, the doctor told me if nothing changes and he doesn't start breathing, we're gonna do a C-section that night. So another 10 minutes go by, nothing's happening. She says, go ahead and call Chris, let her know to come back up here because we're gonna go ahead and prep you for a C-section. I called Chris. Chris didn't believe me. I had her on speakerphone, so I was like, hey, when you come back, we're gonna have the babies tonight. She was like, no, we're not. The doctor was like, yes, you are. You better be on your way. So after that, everything happened really fast. I got dressed, so they just gave me a gown or whatever. I disrobed everything. I just had on the gown. They took me downstairs to the OR. Chris got there around like 9:30. I had to sign, you know, paperwork to the anesthesiologist basically saying, you know, there's a chance that you could be paralyzed if something goes wrong with the epidural. I had to sign that paper. I had to sign paper saying, you know, if anything happens, who's going to be in charge of everything, which is Chris. They gave me a pill, so I went so I wouldn't throw up. Or was it a pill or a liquid? I think it was a liquid they gave me. They gave me a liquid to drink so I wouldn't throw up on the OR table. Gave me another IV of a bunch of fluids.
Wait,
you about to have some babies.
It's time. I'm excited and nervous.
So last night, just us. That's what.
I feel like it.
And they took me first back to the OR because they wanted to get me prepped before they had Chris come back. Went to the OR. There was my doctor, the doctor that was conducting the C-section, 2 anesthesiologists, and an OR tech, and then I think 2 nurses from the NICU because the babies were going to have to go to the NICU because they were early. Got in, they set me up on the table, went to go do my epidural. The epidural wasn't bad, like it wasn't painful at all. Like I let them know if I could feel anything, and even if you did feel anything, it was kind of just like a quick pinch or whatever. But did the epidural, laid me down, strapped me to the table, and the anesthesiologist started to check to see if I could feel anything. So she was kind of like going from my foot all the way up to a little bit above my hip with a, like, I don't know, it wasn't a pin, but it was kind of like a little small needle. And I couldn't feel anything on my left side. She was poking, I couldn't feel anything. Went to the right side and I could mildly feel where she was poking me up until my thigh where it felt like a normal poke. And I let them know, I was like, hey, I can still feel this. So they was like, okay, we'll give you another epidural. If that doesn't work, then we'll have to put you under, which is the scariest thought to me. If any of you have seen the movie Awake, I just didn't want to go to sleep on the operating table. Meanwhile, Chris is still waiting in the waiting room. They told her it was gonna be 10 minutes. It took about 45 minutes for me to actually get numb after the second epidural. And after that one, my left leg was completely dead. Like it felt like I was touching a hunk of ham. Like I could feel it in my hands, but I couldn't feel it in my thighs. And it was the weirdest feeling ever. My right side went more numb than it did before, but it wasn't like, I would say it was like 95% numb. So I couldn't really feel much, but I could still feel a little bit. So they called Chris back in. They put the curtains up, they strapped me back down, they inserted a catheter into me, and around like 10:40, let's say like 10:40, they start the process of cutting me open. Don't feel anything, all you feel is a lot of pressure, just feels like somebody's, you know, pulling and tugging on you. Cut me open, Jace came out at 10:50. I knew he was immediately gonna have to go to the NICU because of his issue with his lungs. He did cry for a little bit, but they did end up taking him out. Our nurse ended up taking pictures of him because I didn't get to see him in the operating room. Madison came out at 10:53, crying, fully, moving, kicking. I got to see her. They dropped the curtains and the nurse took pictures of her as well. So that happened within like 20 minutes. Babies came out and they told me that would be the fastest part. The second half was them closing me back up, and I felt so much pressure. And keep in mind, my right leg wasn't completely numb, so I'm like trying to get off the table. I'm shaking. I'm telling Chris I'm about to throw up. They give me a bucket. Never threw up, which is a good thing. But it's just, I'm crying. It's just a lot going on. So C-section is, I know a lot of people think it's like the easy way out, but it's just as worse. Not as worse, but I feel like it's just as the same as having a vaginal birth. You don't have to push. I never had contractions. I never went into active labor. So I don't know what that part feels like. I just know when they were stitching me up, it was a lot. So after they stitched me up, cleaned me up, went back into the OR waiting room, gave me some more fluids. The nurse had to like push on my belly to get everything else out. So there was like a couple times she had to do that while we were in there, and that hurt because obviously I just got cut open, but she was pushing on my stomach trying to get all that stuff out. And then around like 1 a.m. we got to go down to the NICU and see our babies. They were both hooked up to CPAP machines to help with their breathing, which is just a machine that gives them, you know, air to help their lungs open and close. We had feeding tubes, heart monitors, all that stuff was attached to them. They were just, they were just hooked up to pretty much everything. And I just remember being in the NICU and all you hear is like beeping, and there's other babies in there, and it's just, it was a lot. I knew there was a possibility they would be in the NICU, but I didn't know they would be in the NICU like that. I just expected them just to be, you know, in the NICU to be taken care of for a little bit. After I gave birth and we went back up to my room, Chris ended up having to leave because obviously I wasn't in active labor and you weren't allowed to have any visitors. So I ended up staying in the hospital from March 21st. I got discharged on that next Friday, which was the 26th? Yeah, 27th. 26, 27, I can't really remember right now. But I got discharged that Friday, so I ended up staying in the hospital by myself. I had FaceTime, you know, I had my laptop, I had the TV or whatever, talking about my time. And I was allowed to visit the babies whenever I wanted. Anytime I wanted to go downstairs, I was allowed to go visit them. So that helped a lot. I held Madison for the first time when she was 6 days old. So any other time I went to go see her, she was always in the incubator. So at 6 days old, they took her out and I was able to hold her, and you know, she got to hold onto my hand and stuff, and that was precious. But I held Jace at 8 days old. He was precious. He was really, he was small. They were both born at 2 pounds 13 ounces, the exact same. So they were small. By the time I held them, they were probably still around like 2 pounds. They lost most of their birth weight, but they had to gain it back. Within a couple days, they were off of the CPAP machine. So I think 3 days they were on the CPAP machine, and 3 days they were under the UV light for their jaundice. And on 2 weeks after they were born, since I gave birth in Chapel Hill, they decided to transfer them to the NICU here in Raleigh, so it'd be a little bit easier, and they needed to make space in that NICU anyway. And then NICU unit here in Raleigh is a lot smaller. The one in Chapel Hill is huge. So I got to go visit them more once they came into Raleigh. I remember we were going to visit and came in or whatever. I think it was just me that went. Yeah, because Chris stayed at work until that babies actually came home. I went to go visit, and you know, I'm holding Madison, and I think I held Jace first. And the nurse comes in and she goes, "You notice anything different?" I was like, their lids aren't on their incubators, but that came off, you know, 2 days ago. They're in their big baby beds. She was like, they don't have their feeding tubes anymore. And I was like, oh, I didn't notice it. Like, they used to have that feeding tube was originally in their mouth. They both pulled it out. Then they got the feeding tube in their nose, and the nurse said they had both pulled them out that morning. She said Jace pulled his out first, and then Madison pulled hers out. So they tried a bottle with both of them, and they both took a bottle, so they decided not to put them back in. So they were accelerating really, really fast. They were, you know, growing, gaining weight, doing everything they were supposed to be doing. And then we went to go visit on Easter, which is April 12th. They were still doing really good. The only thing they had on them were the heart monitor machines. They didn't have any more IVs or anything like that. And the nurses told us that Jace would be ready to go home on the 13th because he would be 4 pounds and that's when they want to put him in the car seat and test them. So we had to bring the car seats up and make sure that they were able to tolerate being in there. So Jace passed his car seat test, and I remember asking the nurse, I was like, is there any way that, because they said he would be able to come home on Monday and Madison would probably be able to come home on Tuesday. I asked if there was any way that they could both come home on Tuesday, but that really didn't make any sense because one, we'd be paying for another day for them to be in the NICU, as well as they don't have a medical reason to keep him there. When we came back on the 13th, Madison was in her car seat, and we only came to pick up Jason. When we saw her in the car seat, we were like, she, you know, passing her car seat test, where they was like, yeah, she's ready to go as well. You can take them both home today. So they got to come home together, which was great. Which I was stressed out a lot about, you know, just having one baby home, taking them to a doctor's appointment, then going back, bring another baby home, have them put them in the car, go to another doctor's appointment. So they both got to come home on April 13th. They both came home at 4 pounds. They are 2 months old now. They're both 6 pounds. And I think a lot of people see pictures of them and they don't think they look that small, but when I said they came out at 2 pounds, they were tiny. Jason had really long legs, but other than that, they were really tiny. So they accelerated really fast. They wanted to come home. They didn't want to be there. They're just like their mom. Nobody wants to be in the hospital. Since they've been home, they've been doing great. We hang out all day because I am on maternity leave as, I think, the longest I want to stay out is August. I might return earlier. I don't know, but I'll be at home with them, being able to watch them grow. Chris stayed home for a month, so we got to be home as a family together. Granted, we were in a quarantine, so there wasn't really much that we could do. But just being home with them was like the best thing ever. It still kind of feels like a dream that I was actually pregnant for 8 months and then had 2 babies. Like, it just, my pregnancy went by really slow, but now it feels like it went by really, really fast because the babies are actually here. I get to see them smile, and I get to see them, you know, move around and cry and kick and play with each other. And it's just like the best feeling in the world to know that I gave birth to 2 healthy babies, and I brought them home, and they're happy, and they're with their family, and they're gonna grow up, and I get to watch all these memories. So yeah, that's my birth story. It's been easier now that they're home. The 3 weeks that they weren't here was kind of crazy, but yeah, they're home, they're happy, they're healthy, I'm happy, Chris is happy, and we're just one big happy family. So if you have any questions, comments, and concerns, please leave them down below. Like this video. I'm gonna try to do as many videos as possible while I'm at home. No promises, because I do have 2 babies to take care of. Eventually I will get them on camera and you guys will be able to see them. I'm gonna have some pictures, you know, posted throughout the video that you probably saw already. But yeah, thanks for watching.